Hello beautiful people, my name is Amanda Zitto. If you're new here, I make motorcycle travel vlogs, content about motorcycle camping, and general encouragement for you to get out and do the thing. In March of this year, 2022, if you're watching this in the future, I took my beloved 2016 Honda CB500X across the southern part of the United States to Florida and back, totaling about 8,000 miles. Whenever I do one of these big trips, I'm essentially living in my riding gear. I wore my jacket, pants, helmet, gloves, boots every single day for 34 days straight. The benefit of this is that I learned really quickly everything that my gear is really good at and excels at, but also all of its shortcomings and pain points, or parts of the gear that I don't necessarily appreciate or don't function the way that I need them or want them to. And so when I come back from big trips, I tend to have a phase where I upgrade all of the things that bothered me the whole time I was gone on a trip. So today we're gonna go over all of the riding gear that I took on my cross-country trip and what I ended up upgrading when I got back. And just before we get started, I wanna mention today's sponsor is REV'IT, the best online motorcycle resource for riding gear, parts, and accessories, and pretty much where I've been exclusively buying my riding gear since 2015. For clarity, I purchased the majority of the riding gear that went across the country with me myself with my own money, with the exception of the Scorpion helmet that was sent to me by Scorpion. All of the pieces of gear that I upgraded to after the trip were generously sent to me by REV'IT. However, I was already doing a ton of research about those specific pieces of gear, and I would have purchased them with my own money had REV'IT not reached out to me in the process of upgrading my gear. With that out of the way, let's talk about riding gear. Starting with the helmet that I took on this trip, which was the brand new Scorpion GT930, a modular helmet that Scorpion did send me so that I could also test out another new piece of gear, the Exo-Com. The modular GT930 and the full-face T520 have built-in features especially for the Exo-Com Bluetooth communication unit. Specifically a battery compartment in the back of the helmet, and then the Exo-Com unit itself snaps into the side of the helmet, which was a super easy install. The helmet that I wore before this trip was the Scorpion AT950, which of course has the dual sport style visor, and a lot of people were concerned that I would miss that visor on this trip as a kind of sunblock. But in all honesty, there maybe was less than a handful of times where I wish that I had the visor. The rest of the time I was relieved because I don't think people really think about the amount of wind that those visors pick up, especially when you're on the freeway, and I did do a lot of highway miles on this trip. The way that the dual sport visors pick up the wind, it does create a little bit of neck strain, so all in all, I was really happy that I took the GT930 on this trip. I still had the modular features that I love about my AT950, minus the visor, which really just lessened my neck fatigue. The GT930 also has the drop-down sun visor that I have become so accustomed to in my AT950 and used the heck out of. It's just really nice to have that drop-down sun visor instead of having to put on sunglasses inside your helmet. Speaking of glasses though, the GT930 does come with those little pockets built in so that when you put on glasses, they're not creating pressure points against your temple, which is just really nice. And all helmets should have them. Wind noise wise, I did find the GT930 just to be a smidge quieter than the AT950, but please wear your earplugs. It does make a huge difference in noise fatigue while you're traveling. It protects your hearing and just makes it a much more enjoyable experience going down the road. I know a lot of people really love the foam earplugs. Those just don't seem to be blocking out as much noise for me, and I start to get little pressure pains inside of my ear from them. So I have found a lot of success in another kind of earplug that has little phalanges on them. This is the best way I can describe it, which I will leave a link for down in the description. I really enjoyed using the Exo-Com unit on this trip. I really loved how sleek it was on my helmet and that there was nothing dragging on the side of the helmet as far as wind resistance. I would say the speakers are loud enough to listen to music, but not loud enough for me to listen to audiobooks. I can't speak to trying to pair the Exo-Com with another unit. I've had no problems Bluetoothing it to my phone or to other devices, but I can't really speak to what the pairing experience would be like in a group or anything like that. Back at the end of 2020, when I got back from the first cross-country trip, I decided that I needed a gear upgrade and I purchased the women's REV'IT Neptune Gore-Tex jacket and pants. My main motivation for upgrading to this particular jacket and pants pair was that I wanted the Gore-Tex liner really badly, especially after a little bit of a gear failure on my Yosemite suit in West Virginia during a downpour. The thing that I really enjoyed about the Neptune suit, and that I think it excelled very well at, is being a cold weather suit. The lack of vents on the suit definitely make it not as versatile. However, it also removes any weak point in the system where a draft could get in. I have two major pain points with this suit though, and no, they're not related to the vents. One is that I get terrible neck burn from the collar. It doesn't matter if I'm wearing a buff, it doesn't matter if the collar is buttoned or not. Inevitably, it just creates this nasty red rash around my neck, and it hurts. Number two is that the majority of the pockets on the suit are completely unusable. The pants pockets are a joke. You can't use them because of the way that the zipper is designed and because there's no give in the fabric. If you try to put your hand in and out of the pocket, the zippers are just like absolutely destroying the skin on your hands. Not to mention you could barely fit your phone in that pocket, and that's probably it. Maybe a business card or two, but you can't put anything else in those pockets. Because they're also in a position when you bend your leg on the bike, anything in that pocket has to fold. If it doesn't, it's very painful. These exterior pockets in the jacket that look very functional are just an absolute pain in the butt to use. I actively tried to avoid putting stuff in them if I could help it. And then this fanny pack pocket in the back, which I believe is designed for you to put the excess layers in the suit, because you also have an insulating layer and the Gore-Tex layer like I talked about, which are removable from the interior of the jacket, I believe are supposed to be able to be stored in this pocket. Well, you kind of have to pick which one you're going to put in because both do not fit, unless you have perfected how to roll up those layers and fold them in perfectly. I use this pocket mostly just to store the patches and stickers that I was buying at national parks, to be totally honest. In my personal opinion, the interior pockets are the only usable storage pockets on this jacket pants combo. It's gonna sound terrible, but after a couple of the early season trips that I did with this suit in the beginning of 2021, I just ended up taking the Gore-Tex layer out of it and putting it in the Yosemite suit. The reason I still chose to take the Neptune suit, besides all of my gripes, over the Yosemite suit was because the Yosemite suit really shines if it's over 75 degrees. And the flight south was filmed through March and the beginning of April. So I knew that I would be hitting a lot of temperatures under 75 degrees. Of course, when I got to Florida and then at the tail end of the trip going through California again, I was in a fair bit of areas where it was warmer than that. The vast majority of the trip, it was well under 75 degrees. And I was very grateful to have the Neptune, which did excel at keeping me warm when it was so cold outside, in combination with all of my layers, of course. I will note that the Neptune suit is discontinued by REV'IT now because they've moved on to better things, improved pockets, better fitment, all of those things. And despite this being one of the best options for me at the time, I did come back from the flight south ready for an upgrade. So after I got back from the flight south, I upgraded to the women's REV'IT Sand 4 H2O jacket and pants. And let me tell you, I am in love. This jacket and pants was very kindly sent to me by RevZilla when they found out that I was looking to upgrade. I was already doing a ton of research about what I wanted to upgrade to and had been saving my pennies for this particular suit setup. You may recognize it also as the jacket and pants that Kinga over on Her Bike wears. So I knew if it could live up to her abuse that I would absolutely love it. And that sentiment has held true since owning it. I got this set back in May, and so it has close to 4 months of steady abuse, and I'm still in love with it. It is super versatile riding gear. In my personal opinion, it does very well going from chilly temperatures up to hot ones and back down. I have no complaints about that. I actually want to praise all of the vents on this jacket really quickly. One, it has the full arm vent system, the way that my Scorpion Yosemite suit does, but also under boob vents. Ladies, under boob vents. They're amazing. Also, they added buttons to hold the vent open. Also, something that's very unique that I haven't seen in other gear thus far, you can correct me down in the comments if you've seen this before, but it has 2 zippers down the front. And it's not necessarily an extra layer, it's just like this extra little piece of vented fabric that you can zip up and then just have this vent open that is putting direct airflow onto your chest, which is just so lovely. But you can also zip up the outer shell of the jacket so there isn't a draft coming in over the zipper. It's brilliant, and I love it. So far, I haven't gotten neck burn from this color like I have from the Neptune suit, so far so good. Really raising the bar over here. These side pockets might look kind of funny, but they're super usable, and it's just really nice to have a very comfortable way to put your hands in pockets when it's cold or you're just standing around. Very, very nice and very easy to get stuff in and out of. You just have to remember to zip up those pockets because stuff can fall out of them if you forget. There's also just really nice vents here on the back that allow a little bit of a cross flow, especially when those chest vents are open. My biggest complaint with this jacket is this tiny, tiny fanny pack pocket. If I thought that the Neptune fanny pack pocket disappointed me, I can't fit any of the layers from this jacket in this pocket at all because the opening to the pocket is too small. But all things considered, this jacket has been performing so well. I have gone from below 38 degree temperatures all the way up to 104 in this jacket and pants combo thus far, and I am so happy with it. And I can't move on without briefly talking about functioning thigh pockets. I didn't think that I was gonna ever get these again after the Yosemite suit, so I was so thrilled to have functioning thigh pockets, and I just wanna give a little bit of a shout out to this awesome thigh vent on these pants. That includes a little button on the inside to keep the vent open, especially when you're seated. The vent is wide open and lets a lot of air in, and it's just, so good. The Sandfor H2O women's jacket and pants also comes with a insulating and a rain layer. The rain layer, unfortunately, is not Gore-Tex, but I totally understand why, and also it would rack up the price for an already very expensive jacket and pants even more. But also because REV'IT and other big brands have made really exceptional alternatives to Gore-Tex that are very breathable and perform really similarly. I would say that the rain layer that comes with the H2O jacket and pants is plenty fine for sprinkles and that kind of stuff. However, if you're gonna be stuck in a downpour, you're gonna want outer rain gear, which brings me to the next piece of gear that I did take on the flight south, which was my Nelson Rigg rain suit. This is the Nelson Rigg Solo Storm rain suit jacket and pants combo, which was given to me very kindly by Nelson Rigg before the flight south, specifically so that I could get through those eastern United States rainstorms and stay dry this time. The Solo Storm rain jacket and pants was a new release for Nelson Rigg in 2022. This jacket and pants combo definitely kept me very dry on the trip. A nice touch that I really appreciated was this back vent that you can unzip and open up and get a little bit of airflow. So if it's really humid, but you still want to stay dry, you can open that up and get a little bit more airflow going so you're not just absolutely drenched in sweat under a waterproof layer. There is a hood to the rain suit that's hidden underneath of this collar. Now Nelson Rigg is selling the jacket and pants separately so that you can get different sizes in the jacket and pants, and my biggest mistake was not asking for a larger size in the pants. So unfortunately I had to cut these little straps that go around the elastic in order to get these pants over my hips with riding gear on. So I would probably recommend going a size up than what you think you need in the pants. Really quick, let's talk about gloves. I always carry 2 pairs of gloves on every single trip, and the flight south was no exception. I try to carry 1 waterproof pair of gloves and 1 well-ventilated pair of gloves. So I took the REV'IT Women's Sand 3 gloves as my well-ventilated gloves on this trip, and I absolutely love them. I felt so much more safe and comfortable in these gloves than I did my old pair of Fox gloves. First pair that I bought was unfortunately too small, so I did have to buy another pair. But once I figured out my size, they were so comfortable, and I'm so glad that I had them. I really love the armor in the knuckles and the way that it moves when you make a fist. One of my favorite features of this glove, as well as that little bit of armor on the meat of your palm. That, of course, is one of the first parts of your hand that hits the ground. Really love them. They have a lot of life left in them. But when I got back, REV'IT was really kind and upgraded me to the new Sand 4s. There is a little bit more coverage in the armor, especially around your knuckles and down the tops of your fingers. Same areas of protection along the meat of your palm, your thumb, and then the side of your pinky, which I always think is a really nice touch on gloves. I'd say that they're both ventilated a similar amount. I will say that it's taken me a little bit longer to break in the Sand 4s than it did for me to break in the Sand 3s, but I still love both pairs of gloves. And then the waterproof pair of gloves that I took on this trip, and probably the most worn pair of gloves on the flight south, were my Klim Adventure Gore-Tex women's gloves. They are a short glove as compared to the old snowmobile waterproof gloves that I used to wear, because I have found on the REV'IT gear it's much harder for me to get a gauntlet over the bottom of the jacket. So instead I've been wearing the shorter gloves that I can get underneath of the cuff of my jacket, and it's been going pretty well so far. I didn't replace these gloves because I still absolutely love them. They did everything that I needed them to. My hands were always dry. I especially love the little wiper that they put on the left forefinger of the gloves. All right, last but not least, let's talk about boots really quick. I purchased these Gaerne all-terrain Gore-Tex boots back in 2017. They were my first proper motorcycle boot that wasn't a leather biker boot, and I have worn the hell out of them. I practically lived in them. The only time that my feet haven't been dry is when the water level has been above the Gore-Tex liner of the boot. They were super comfortable to walk in, as you can probably tell by the outsole almost completely being worn through at this point. The downside to them being super walkable though is that there's pretty much zero ankle protection, and they're very flexible. The outsole isn't quite stiff enough to stand for long hours on pegs. Your feet kind of start to hurt because they're not as supportive as they would be in like a dual sport boot that is much stiffer. I believe that the all-terrain Gore-Tex boots have been discontinued, but the balanced oils from Gaerne are very, very similar. They just don't have the Gore-Tex liner in them. I would say that they're still a really, really wonderful boot for like ADV when you're gonna do 70 to 80% on-road and like maybe 20 to 30% off-road. Once you start creeping into more off-road than that though, I would seriously think about boots that have much more ankle support and a stiffer outsole. I still absolutely love these boots. However, the outsole really, really needs to be replaced. And so it was between trying to pay or find a cobbler that would replace the outsole on these boots, or upgrade to another pair of boots that was stiffer, would have more ankle support. And so I made the decision to upgrade instead of re-soling these boots. REV'IT kindly helped me replace my Gaernes with the Forma Terra Evo Dry X series boots. They are definitely stiffer than my Gaernes. I wouldn't say that they're less comfortable to walk in, but them being stiffer means I'm less inclined to do a long hike in them. Instead, I take those boots off and I put on my sandals if I know I'm going to be off the bike for a little while. However, there's definitely so much more protection around my ankle, the Achilles tendon, and even the toe box is so much more protected on the Terra Evos than they were in the all-terrains. All of my riding gear will be linked down in the description if you would like to check it out, both all of the gear that I took on the flight south and also all the pieces of gear that I upgraded to after the fact. A huge thank you to REV'IT for sponsoring today's video and making it possible for me to upgrade all of these pieces of gear all at once instead of having to choose what I really need to replace one little piece at a time. Thank you, thank you, thank you. A huge shout out to my patrons as well who make this whole channel possible. I hope that you enjoyed today's video. Make sure that you hit that like and subscribe button if you did. And question for my end screen crew, do you have a couple pieces of riding gear that just have those couple pain points that you're still trying to find a replacement for? Let me know down in the comments below. I'll see you guys later.